six-star team, the waste team, waiting patiently for us.
Kia ora koutou. I just wanted to introduce the team with me. So my name is Parul Sood. I'm the GM for Waste Solutions. I have Terry Coe with me, who's the Project Delivery Manager, and Sarah Leclerc, who's the Waste Planning Manager. So we do have a short presentation that we'll take you through, just to give you a flavor of the report, and then happy to take any questions.
Good, thank you.
Kia ora koutou. So we're here today to seek endorsement from committee of a proposed two-phase approach to implement the decision to move to a region-wide rates-funded refuse collections. So we've been working towards standardisation of curbside waste services for the region since amalgamation. And harmonising the variety of payment methods and receptacle types is a complex process. It's got differing levels of service changes required. And within the report, Table 1 and Figure 1 in the paper set before you, they set out the variety of those current states. After an in-depth review and significant consultation, last year Council approved the move to a region-wide rates-funded service for refuse collections, and we updated the waste plan accordingly. It was approved by the former version of this committee. This means no change for Auckland Central and Manukau, which represents 55% of the region. But for the North Shore, Waitakere, Papakura, this involves shifting from the pay-as-you-throw or tag service. For Franklin, this means introducing bins when there's currently only a bag service. And for Rodney, this means the introduction of a new council service, where there's currently no refuse collection service there provided by council. So our starting premise is that every property will need access to a council refuse bin. And we've worked through two options to achieve standardisation as we set out in the paper. So option 1, on the slide set before you. So the first option considered a full upfront bin replacement. So this means supplying new bins to all areas except Auckland, Manukau and Papakura. And in this option, the shift to rates funded would coincide with the move to fortnightly collections on the basis of that decision being reconfirmed through the review of the waste plan next year. This option would take 3 years to complete from a 1st of July of 2024 start date after LTP approval, then completing in July 2027. Option 2, bearing in mind Council's current fiscal constraints, we also looked at a leaner model that minimises upfront bin replacement by only delivering new bins to areas with no current council bins, so that's Rodney and Franklin, customers in pay-as-you-throw areas, so that's North Shore, Waitakere, Papakura, that have not kept their council bin or used bags. And this option proposes a mix of using new bins, existing council bins, repurposing PAYT council bins, and also acquiring bins from existing private services. And we've spoken to the providers of those private services. So new bins will only be supplies where customers' existing bins cannot be repurposed under option 2. And with this option, the shift to rates-funded refuse service could be completed over a 15-month period from a July 2024 start, with completion by September 2025. So moving to the costs, as you'll see from the slide, option 1 is significantly more expensive upfront, both in terms of upfront capital costs, as well as the cost to implement, and due to the complexity of a full bin replacement aligned to a service change. Option 1 would be funded by a combination of unbudgeted, at the moment, long-term plan funding, so we need to go through that process, and also supplemented by waste levy funding. Option 2 would enable us to achieve standardisation with a much lower upfront cost, and it would be mainly funded through the waste levy. Only a small part of it would be needed to be funded through existing budgets, and representing a minimal cost in rates to council. So staff recommend option 2. We assessed options against the objectives of providing a standardised charging method, providing a consistent level of service across the region for waste collection, having a fit-for-purpose receptacles to promote waste minimisation, maintaining high participation and low contamination in food scraps and recycling collection services, and also maximising the use of bins currently in service. In addition, there were staff noted key constraints, and that's set out in paragraph 23 of the paper. So for sake of brevity, I'll leave you to look at those, that would have a material influence on achieving these objectives. Those include issues around funding and timing and length of time to prepare for a change in service. So as I mentioned, staff recommend option 2 and seek approval from committee to proceed with confirming the change of timetable and communicating this with customers. We do have, if approved, we would follow proposed strategic phasing as set out on this slide. And that strategic phasing over 5 years allows the impact to council's customers and contractors to be managed in a controlled manner. As mentioned, if the committee approved today, staff will immediately start preparing for the rates funded service implementation to start being phased in from 1st of July next year. And this includes work to provide for a monthly option for ultra-low waste producers as well. So region-wide, under this option, region-wide rates funded refuse will be achieved by September 2025. And then the planning and preparation for phase 2 would start with the reconfirmation of the fortnightly refuse service as part of the review of the waste plan. So in terms of option 2, what it could include, so clearly the shift to, as I mentioned, the shift to fortnightly refuse collections, rolling out collection day changes to accommodate those that change in service frequency, and then collection fleet changes to accommodate that reduction in service frequency, and replacement of ageing bin stock in Auckland Central is another consideration. By delaying the replacement of the 140-litre bins in Waitakere and North Shore, not only does that maximise the asset life of those bins, which are serviceable now, but also allows customers to make an informed choice about the size of the bin they actually need once they are diverting their food scraps, and we'd like to see that rolling out across the region at the moment. So that ends my presentation, and we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Got a couple of questions. Councillor Dalton has asked to move the recommended option. Do I have a seconder? Yes. Councillor Henderson or the Mayor? I said Councillor Henderson first. Sorry, Mayor. I need to be looking sideways. Right, our first question is from Member Hennaday online. Member Hennaday, are you?
We're all enjoying toes whare. Yeah.
We can see you. In
I wish it was. I wish it was. As a ratepayer out in the west, why do I have to wait till July to get rid of my pay as I throw bin tag, which costs me $5 every week? I've got a bin. I'm standing outside Friday mornings waiting for the roast man, and I have to put my bin tag out.
Kia ora, through the chair, that's the very reason we are trying to work as fast as possible. To get to the solution that'll get us there faster. We do have to give our operators time to gear up with the trucks and also make sure the bins are all they've got the branding on to say it is a move from the pay-as-you-throw to rates funded. It just takes time.
I don't want to argue with you, but I actually think that's bollocks. Honestly, people out in West Auckland have been paying through the nose for what other people in Auckland City get for free. Well, it's not free because they pay their rates.
Okay, so Member Hennaday, there is the Auckland and South pay additional, I can't remember the exact figure, $100 and something on top of their rates that the North and West don't pay. The issue is the contracts waiting for them to roll over. That's the difference. Could you just explain the parole, maybe the process so we've locked it in?
What contract?
Through the chair, we also have to rate the areas as well. So as part of the annual budget process, the rate will come in for the areas that now do not have it on the rates. So there is a bit of a process that it needs to go through, and the collection contracts have to move from the pay-as-you-throw to a rates funded as well. So it is, and I guess the option that we have put in front of you is the fastest way to get there.
I'm just saying that I remember 12 months ago we had the same discussion. It's no wonder people are out there are perturbed at the slowness of decision making, and not just us, but everything. Anyway,
Kia ora.
thank you.
Kia ora, Member Henare. Yeah, the issue probably is partially governance, partially contract. So there are a number of contracts out in the west and north which are private. What we're doing essentially by the date it changes over will mean everyone is paying on their rates for the council service. That's not the case at the time. The staff with this option are trying to move faster than the original decision last year. This will actually make it move faster, but we have to make sure everyone has a bin before we charge them the rates. So you and I have a bin that we put our tags on, but there's plenty of people who have a private service who don't have a council bin that we can't charge them rates for something they can't do. That's the main reason, right, Parul, that we just have to ensure that everyone has the bin that we can charge them for.
And we also have to apply the targeted rate, which goes through the annual budget process. So that will happen this year, for next year. There is process there, yeah.
Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the officers. I'm in a quandary. I support phase 1 of option 2. I don't support phase 2 of option 2. I don't think I'll ever support that. In the report, you have put a subject to it, para 37. Phase 2 will only commence upon reconfirmation progressing to fortnightly refuse collections. My recollection of this is that we've never landed on a decision to progress to fortnightly refuse collections. You say that this will be following Waste Management and Minimisation Plan 2024 consultation. I want to offer my support for phase 1 of option 2, but I need to express my very strong concern for phase 2, because we all need to understand that this will be judged as council charging heaps and cutting your service in half. And also too, the fortnightly rubbish collection is already there for people. It's a choice for them. They don't have to put their rubbish out every week. In supporting this, can I understand from the officers, where is the mandate for phase 2?
Through the chair, in our previous waste plan, in 2018 waste plan, we do have the mandate to move to fortnightly rubbish collections, as we have the mandate to introduce food scrap services and fortnightly recycling collections. However, following that and the conversations we've had at council, we said we would come back to you with evidence that the community, the residents can manage with a lesser frequency service. Hence, we will be putting that evidence through the waste plan, which is going out next year, early next year. And based on that, we would be looking at introducing fortnightly after that has been done and the outcome of that has been decided.
Pearl, would you agree that it's a contested argument as to whether they can or whether they're ready, but also too, whether or not they can, whether or not they're ready, there's also the issue of whether they want that to happen. If they don't want that to happen, we shouldn't necessarily oblige them by way of forcing this upon them. This will need to be reconsidered because I was part of that discussion in 2018, and from my recollection of it, it was canvassed, but no decision was finalised on that, because there were a number of councillors who were part of that hearing, 2 of whom are no longer here, and Councillor Walker and I were also part of that, and I don't recall ever signing up to that. So your interpretation of this perhaps differs from mine, but this will need to be brought back for a debate. I'm not sure that this council will be on board with that, with phase 2.
Through the
Perhaps
chair.
that can be comment, Chair. I'll support option 2, but I preface this by saying I only support phase 1 of option 2. I'm not on board with phase 2.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Newman. There will be discussions through the waste plan, but it is my understanding that currently we would have to change our plan from fortnightly to, but I don't believe we are moving without wide discussion and more decision making. Councillor Baker.
Thanks. So I remember when we rolled out the bins into the recycling bins into Franklin, and I guess the issues there in terms of those communities not used to that, and in those rural communities, and particularly isolated communities, were concerned about having bins instead of their little buckets, which was easy to get, up their kilometre-long driveway, etc., etc. Are we going to go out with a really, really robust communication to those people who are getting bins for the first time, not only explaining why, but I guess getting them thinking about the options to dragging their bin up and down the thing, and just because I just need sort of comfort that we're going to have that really, really good communications plan to address those people who don't live within 10 metres of the end of their driveway and have to drag a bin along a kilometre-long metal track.
Through the chair, the answer is yes, comms will be a very important part of the transition, but also within the waste plan, we have the option for rural areas only of a bag or a bin for refuse. And that has been part of what we've discussed with the community all along. So they will continue to have that option.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley, last question.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Hi, Pearl and the team. I just wanted to ask, there's no plans or concerns for a rebranding later on down the track because maybe we don't have that regional consistency of our bins throughout the city? No plans like that, like Countdown?
We will want to have the same kind of bins across the city at some point in time. But I think with this proposal, what we are saying is let us use our existing stock, and maybe they'd have stickers on them for the time being so that we can get across the life of those bins as much as possible, and then look at everybody having similar bins. So, but that would be only towards the end of the life of that bin. So only replace them when they are dying.
Okay, cool. And then, Chair, I just wanted to acknowledge the team and Parole and their leadership in the change that we're experiencing in the city right now with the food waste bins. I know people are very, people complain, they don't like something different, and so I just really want to acknowledge you guys have just been steadfast, you're carrying on, you're bearing, down with the complaints that, that people have, and it's going to benefit our future generations. And I was excited, my food bin got picked up on Wednesday, and I did a TikTok to help promote the reason why, we're changing and doing this with the food bins. So I think the more people understand what we're trying to do, the better. So really acknowledge everything that you guys are doing. Thank you.
And on my walk to the bus, I am seeing way more food bins and actually less rubbish bins. So it's lots of people are using them in where I live.
I have to say North Shore is doing better than the West. There's a bit of competition there.
That is a challenge.
Central is getting even better. Yeah.
And that comes directly from a Westie.
But the West has chickens.
You won't be able to go.
Animals to eat it.
You won't be able to go. You won't be able to go home out west today, Parole. After that. Right. Thank you for that. Is there any debate on this item? We'll get the staff to move back, and thank you for this. Councillor, question or comment?
A question of you and process.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to support halving the bin collection as well.
So that can be part of your speaking turn. I guess that what Pearl's answer was in this case as part of our current waste plan is to move to, at some point, fortnightly due to the fact everyone will have food waste bins, and the plan was, as part of the waste plan back in 2018, was while everyone has the food waste to be picked up weekly, over time the rubbish will reduce, the general waste will reduce, and then people maybe will only need it fortnightly. But there's still a lot of water to go under the bridge, and this decision isn't saying yes, that's going to happen tomorrow. This decision is only around us endorsing the team's ability to reuse the current bins and not swap out everyone's bins. We're going to go with stickers, which will save millions and obviously reduce the waste of bins being wasted. But you're welcome to vote against it, though, Councillor Turner. But that's.
And I only need to vote against option 2, so B. You know, I wasn't here when that was all discussed. I did have a lot of involvement as a board member with tags out our way, etc. So, and with bags, I know. And the West may be not performing as well, but then the West is a lot of rural area, just like Franklin and Rodney. So thank you.
Thank you. Right. Comment, Councillor Darby.
Yeah, totally support this. And Pearl, I also just want to take this opportunity to say that the food waste collection, for me, my family personally, is massively successful. I can see more bins going out week by week. From making really bad compost and having the odd rat visit in the bottom of my garden, it's now going out the front. And one neighbour has inquired, "Oh, you put out quite a lot of food waste. Do you think I can put that in my compost?" So there's a competition between the council and my neighbour to pick it up. But look, it is successful. Just on this, what I have noticed with the food waste bin deployment is I have seen a few found in places, and I've seen down a right-of-way recently. I had to visit a site, and it was a vacant site, but a bin was deployed to the vacant site. So in the deployment of any future bins, I think we need to just check on the method of deployment and to make sure that we do have a customer and the customer takes up the delivery to avoid, you know, the waste of the bins. But hats off you and your team for the food waste success, as it appears to me.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Right, Councillor Filipaina. Sorry, I should have asked the staff to step away so we're not debating with you.
I was just about to. I was just going to wait for them to leave so then I can shout at them. Chair, thank you, Chair. Look, 2016, ex-councillor Holson and I were the chair and deputy chair of the Environmental Committee. And in 2017, there was myself and ex-councillor Whanha Efeso Collins, along with James Young, who was the Solutions team leader, and Stuart Ayres, the enforcement officer, that ended up being part of Let's Bin the Bag. This has been going on for quite a while. And after listening to Member Henare, I don't want him, because I had a picture of Member Henare waiting at the bottom of his drive every time he wanted his bin emptied and the truck goes past. I don't want to see that picture ever again. And the sooner we end up implementing this stage 1 and stage 2, the better for Tāmaki Makaurau. So, Chair, I do want to acknowledge our staff and the staff that I've been involved with, along with Councillor Lee way back in 2010 at the election, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Sharon Stewart, and those that were around this table, because this has been an issue that it's been here since 2010 and 2011 when we started our committees. I congratulate the team for getting us to this point, and I will support all the options that we have and the recommendations, Chair. So, ngā mihi kia koutou katoa to the team. Kia ora, Chair.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. Oh, and now we have Councillor Newman. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, look, thank you, Chair. I've just put in the note there for the officers and voting for B. I wish to note that my support only applies to phase 1 of the 2-phased approach, but I wish to reflect my opposition to phase 2. I think the officers can pick that up for administrative purposes. I do want to thank Waste Solutions team. They've done some good work through the years. the rollout of the food scraps bin began in Papakura actually, and it's been of some use to a lot of constituents, not all of them. It is a choice. Some people think that the food scraps bin is not relevant to their needs. They don't use it. That's their choice, and it should be their choice. Actually, the initial plan, and this is when we moved out of the bags service in Papakura, was that we would have the wheelie bin, and that what we would do is we'd put a barcode on the bin, and we would pay on the scanning of the barcode at and we would charge based on the lift. Now, clearly, the technology hasn't worked for that, so we've moved on, and we're going to have a collection service based on the rate. I support a collection service based on the rate rather than pay as you throw. For me, the issue is the frequency of the service. I want that to be the choice of the consumer, but for us to provide that on a weekly basis. And I think that the presumption here that this is all just going to be a pass-through by way of endorsement of a two-phased approach. We will have another debate about phase two. It appears that we will have to amend the waste management minimisation plan next year to reflect that, but I certainly think this will be of great interest to my constituents. Thank you to the officers for accommodating my position with respect to phase two.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. That is all the speaking required. Thanks to the team. This is a good way forward to save bins and keep them going forever, but to ensure that everyone does have a bin so that we can legally charge them for a service that they can have access to in a quicker way, hopefully. Right, all those in favour? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Just I need...
my position with respect to the phase two at B.
And I want to be recorded to that too, please.
Councillor Newman.
And I put in the chat bar that I want to be recorded the same way as well.
Yes, and I did as well, and apparently we have to speak. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, councillors. Yes, important for everyone to be able to hear your votes. Thank you for that.
Can I note that not everybody has a bin? I mean, urban dwellers in the city don't have them.
Yes, so that part
of... It's not everybody. Yeah. There's 600 people in my building and there's no bins. We have our own system that we have to pay for.
Thank you, Mayor. My comment was around making sure everybody has a bin if we're going to charge them, and there are opt-out systems for the buildings who won't be able to access this service. Thank you. Right, we move on now to item 12,